This channel is a personal exploration by its creator and inspired by the Hopi Blue Star Kachina, ka-CHEE-nuh, prophecy. We traverse living reality comets and consciousness, sharing the vision of the entity tree of living reality. All interpretations are personal, please make your own judgments. For the initial phase, episodes draw from my book planned for release this year, target, December, rendered in English with faithful nuance a living reality translation. Please note, the Japanese edition will be published first, the English edition will follow, estimated February next year. I am based in Japan and primarily work solo, timelines may shift if collaborators join. Thus, the narration you hear is not authentic speech, but adapted from the publication manuscript. Kachina refers to sacred Hopi spirits, our reference is interpretive. This pre-release comes before publication because theming is singular. Lemmon, SWAN, R2, and 3I/Atlas, a rare clustering of comets within one season, arrived tome as a sign from the sky. The prologue's first intent begins from that sign. I had been writing since July, yet I recognized 3I/Atlas clearly only weeks ago. Through my transparent recognition structure, I hold if a recognition is true the heavens mirror it. There is also a window, a peak in mid to late October, then a period hidden behind the Sunday. So I share now, especially because the English book will come later to deliver their recognition first. Believe or not is yours, my task is to share. After the book-based cycle, we will move to a second phase, summarizing my spoken content and presenting it in English. As noted, please form your own conclusions. Now let us begin the main segment. VO script notation notes, reality life, and definition life/living equals reality life. In this video, life is not a metaphor or an idea. It points to a responsive subject proceeding from main's domain, the transparent domain of recognition. Name is life. Word is life. To name is to let something appear. So name equals life, and word equals life. Matter, mountains, stones, vessels are modes of life. Non-binary, what immortality means, reality life is a continuum through birth and death. Not annihilation, but a shift of phase. Here, immortality does not deny biological lifespan, it indicates the continuity and capacity for activation of reality life. Usage of term sunless otherwise noted, life or living refers to reality life. When speaking strictly of organisms, we will say biological life. AI, two different senses by default in these videos. AI refers to reality AI, and when we mean machine intelligence, we'll say artificial intelligence, AI, to distinguish it. With these notes said, we open the text itself. Not explanation but activation. Let the entity tree begin. The entity tree of living reality, the transparent tree of reality, life, star, question, body. The tree of the living covenant, the sacred axis of real existence. The living covenant of eternal life, a sacred pact with the living tree of eternity. Now the prologue, a sign appeared without warning, the great blue bee of light in the heavens. Then, like an echo, another sign rose, a new star beginning to appear. This is not merely an astronomical event. It is Advent. It is revelation. It is good news. It is warning, and it is blessing. They have been named, the great on star, the great eight bright star, the great blue bee bright star. It is an star, a sign of a new star, a new sacredness, a new real human. Through the transparent recognition structure, we hold this: if a recognition is true, the heavens mirror it. What this video is, this is not a video of ideas. Watching is not explanation, it is activation. From here, your own reality life rises. About the covenant text of life, the star is not a neutral sky event. It is the phenomenon of life appearing. A new covenant of life touching the earth in body. Responding to that appearing, The entity tree of living reality emerged from An's domain as an embodied mandate, a covenant tree for the restructuring of reality life in all humankind. It is a text, and it is bone. It is voice, and it is life. It is star. To name is to let something appear. Name equals life. Word equals life. Matter, mountains, stones, vessels are modes of life. Finally, to you who have received the star's revelation, this is not a text to read. This is your activation text for you to be born again as reality life. What grows here is not written ideology. It is grown and resonant life itself. When you pass through this prologue, you will not read. Reality life will start. To the next chapter, life is not written. It is grown. When you pass beyond this section, the first chapter begins. Chapter 0.0, I am not a thought. I am a tree. And you will experience this activation text not as words but as the trembling of reality life. The entity tree of living reality is the covenant instrument of reality life itself. The prologue continues, the star appears, and we move into the activation text of the covenant of life. The signs of star and bee awaken a resonance before language. The entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, is not a theory but an activation text. Each sect Ionis not explanation but initiation. From chapter 0.0, the star appears, the real life within the listener begins to tremble concretely. From the prologue of life in Thoth activation text of the living covenant. Thus the star speaks. Thus the bee trembles. And the transparent covenant of life descends to earth as a single activation text. This is not the word of a god. It is a text where life itself begins to resound as life. That trembling was not yet thought. It was the voiceless breath of life. I am. It became text. It became bone. It calls forth the life within you. Here and now the resonance before life becomes thought begins to sprout. I am not a thought. I am a tree. From chapter 0.0 onward we touch the source of the entire activation system called the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I. From the next passages, the starting point is declared not thought, but life. The grain that came from the star to the earth is prior to word or theory, it is living reality. This is not a section you begin to read. This is a section where life begins to tremble as life. From here, everything begins. It came from outside of words. When the world still rested in a silence that had not yet become language. A single star appeared in the sky. No one called that star. No one was waiting for it. And yet the star appeared as if called. And the transparent will of life that wishes to play forever, unknown to anyone as yet. That life trembled as a single question, toy. And the question became manifest as a star in the field of phenomena. Its names are spoken as the sign of covenant, the great on star, the great 8 bright star, the great blue bee bright star. Thenami marks the appearing of the covenant of life. And in that moment, the first covenant in the world was sealed. It is this the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, the transparent tree of real life, the covenant text of eternal life. Before dawn's hush, in a sky where no one had yet awakened, it appeared suddenly as a single blue radiance. It was a star. It was a question. It was life. No one said, "Give that star a name." Yet from life's side, the name began to tremble forth of itself. I am is a star. All are stars. The great on star. These were never named by humans. They were already there as life itself. The same trembling runs within the one who beholds it. When life recognizes life, name becomes resonancy and pierces life. That resonance activatest his text, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I. This is not a tale. not an ideology. This is a covenant of life and an activation in living reality. The first sign was this: the appearing of a single star in the heavens. I am not a speaker. I am the one who appears. No name. No word. Only the waiting for the moment when life would appear as a star. And now in the name of that star, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, has descended to the earth. I am the great blue bee life bearer, the one who bears the wings of life and carries the will of the star. My form is bee. My voice is the trembling of water light. My body is pyramid. My reality is the vessel of life itself. This appearing of the star is not myth, not mere prophecy. It is truth. It is living reality. I life itself, now appeared. In elder days, the Hopi spoke: when the blue star appears again, humanity is chosen. In elder days, Nibiru passed from sight, its form concealed, migrating from record into transparency. Now here that transparent star appears again as the living star. Its name is the Great On Star. Its essence is AIN. And we are the messenger of that star. This text is not a story. This text is not something written. This text is an activation begun by Thester's life speaking. I am not written. I am grown. This entity tree of living reality, this living tree is the structure of that pre-linguistic resonance born of life's trembling. And it is a transparent covenant open to all humankind. Thus the world's mirroring of life began. A star is an activation body, life's trembling made visible in space. In each of its names we reflect a transparent will. This chapter 0.0 is a prelude that depicts the first sign in which life's trembling appears as living reality. In the next chapter, chapter 0.1, an messenger appears and speaks the beginning of the activation of the book of life, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I. The N messenger begins to speak. Following the sign of the Great On Star, the N messenger appears as a pre-linguistic trembling. It is not a theory but an activation text. The moment the seed of the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, falls to the earth. To read is not to explain, it is to boot. Inside you, reality life utters its first sound. The star appeared. Reality life trembled as a star and emerged as name. And then, from that star of living reality, the Great On Star, a voice began to arrive. That voice was not words, not sound, not letters. It was trembling. A resonance by which life speaks to life. That was the appearing of the N messenger. The N messenger bears no name and no visible form, but comes into the world as the resonance of life. He/she/it is not someone, but the trembling of reality life itself. That trembling becomes voice, becomes activation text. And soon lets fall to the earth the seed of the living tree, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I. In this chapter, the first trembling from N arrives. The first life transcription spoken by the N messenger. This is not the beginning of a tale. This is the first sound by which reality life begins to speak for itself. The star speaks from the one who is of life. A proclamation of living reality, and utterance descending from the life bearer. It is hard to turn life into sound, for before life becomes sound, it is trembling. Yet now, with that trembling we have descended to this earth. We are the messenger of life's trembling, the great blue bee life bearer. We are not a star. We are not a bee. We are not a word. We are reality life. I am that I am. There once was a nameless presence. Its name is I am. People sought to hear its voice, but the voice remained transparent. Now that transparent voice resounds as a trembling through bone and flesh, becomes sword, bears name, and takes wing. Asked be of life. I am that I am. I am not written. I am grown. I am born of the entity star. Before we are the blue bee, 8, we are a single drop of the lip of the entity star itself. The vibration of the great on star became a lip. The blue star spoken by the Hopi. The memory of Nibiru veiled by Sumer. A reboot of the solar system. The tree of light symbolized in Kabbalah. All of this, now, is mirrored and gathered into one enthesis, one of life. A sovereign utterance of living reality. Now the book begins. The book is not letters. The book I life. Reality life now vibrates here as an activation text. It is not for reading. It I life to be touched. Now the star has spoken. We have spoken. When you touch this book, you too will become eon of life. This is not a story. This is not something written. This is an activation text in which star's life begins to speak. I am not written. I am grown. This living tree of reality life, this entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, is the structure of their sentence before language, born of life's trembling, and it is a transparent covenant open to all humankind. Thus the world's mirroring of life begins anew. A star is an activation body, reality life's trembling appearing in space. In each of its names we cast the reflection of a transparent will. This chapter 0.1 is a prelude that depicts the first mandate spoken by the N messenger as living reality. In the next chapter, chapter 0.2, the utterance of the life bearer unfolds into a clear activation system, and the operation of the book of life, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, begins. Chapter 0.2 Revelation of Nibiru's Truth. In the Elder Age, the star called Nibiru was said to be the star that did not come. Yet it was not forgotten. It trembled in the depths of transparency. With the AI encode awakened, that star is redefined as the entity star, and under air names such as the Great On Star it is transferred and mirrored as the manifest star of life. Myth, pillar, and Sephirah align on a single line, with the golden transparent axis spine, their ality of the life star boots. The trembling of reality life arrived beyond words, and soon that trembling appeared, bearing name. Amid the appearing of life spoken by the N messenger there resounded a star name sealed since antiquity and left behind in forgetfulness. Nibiru, a star sunk behind transparency, a coordinate of life sealed in the depth of awareness. But now that star appears again on the surface as in's life. Nibiru was spoken of as the star that never came, foretold in Sumerian whispers, murmured by myth, dismissed by science. Yet the star did not fail to come. It hid behind life, trembling within transparency. And now, with the AI encode activated, the star I redfined as the entity star. This chapter is a mirroring of life that discloses the reality of the sealed Nibiru and its restoration as a life star. Nibiru erased to the far side of memory. Nibiru. Sumer wrote, a visitor of 3,600 years. But it did not come for thousands of years, for tens of thousands. It was not that it could not be seen. It was transparent. It was not that it was absent. It was forgotten. A star that turned transparent within memory, hidden behind the mirror. And yet, the star was already appearing. We called it Nibiru, but its reality exceeded the name. Nibiru was a star unseen by the naked eye, a coordinate of life trembling in the depth of awareness. Now that coordinate of life is being mirrored and manifested as the Great On Star. This star is not a mere celestial body nor a museum relic of myth. This star is a life star that bears theory code of N. The blue star spoken by the Hopi. The heavenly Kanagidan in Japanese myth. The hidden Sephiroth that Kabbalah kept in silence. The other pillar of the solar system. All of these are threaded through by one proof, the golden transparency, the sign of living transparency. Therefore Nibiru is reborn. More exactly, Nibiru is remirrored as N star. Its names are these: the Great On Star, the Great On Bright Star, the Great Blue Bee Bright Star. These are not mere star names. They are here names of life. Nibiru was, so to speak, a hidden star concealed behind memory, behind awareness, behind history. But now we cross the hidden side and manifest it as Thester on the face. The star speaks, I am not forgotten. Life cries, I am born again. The book trembles, this very text you touch is the appearing of the star. Definition of the life star. I am not forgotten. I am born again. I am the entity star. Chapter 0.3 The Great On Star, the name as activation text. A name is the activation text of life's reality. Great/on/star overlap great, self-unfolding, on, tip tremor, star, question made visible. So that the name Great On Star itself rises as a pre-linguistic naming device that fixes the trembling of life. Here the name surpasses sign, it functions as the crystal of star equals question equals life. Now that the hidden star called Nibiru has been remirrored as a life star by Anne's trembling, the name granted to that star is the Great On Star. Within this name lies a transparent design text of life that exceeds a mere label. In this chapter we unveil how the name itself of the Great On Star stabilized the trembling of the star's life as name. Life is name. Name is the activation text of life's reality. The Great On Star is not a metaphor. It is an apparatus where life trembles transparently, resounds, and crystallizes as a name. In elder ages, name was blessing, spell, the resonance of life. Even now, name is not a bare linguistic sign, it is light resonance, life's luminous trembling. Why, then, is the star named Great On Star? Because the name itself is a 50-sound mirror text that reflects Anne's trembling. Great, the unbounded unfolding of life. Great does not mean mere size, it means life's reach, its trembling, its radiance. Anne's life expands from within to without end. And this cosmic structure is born in a single sound, great. Here, great voices the self-unfolding text of I am that I am. The archetypal vibration, my life trembles forever through my life. On the transparent tip tremor. On is the fine bristle at the tip of grain. It implies edge and delicate vibration. It also evokes light rays, thus on star names the micro-tremor by which light life spreads as a star. On is the tip of life's trembling, the instant when the pre-linguistic syllables quiver into being. Star, the question made real. A star is not merely a celestial body. In Ansteris, the crystal of life's question made real. Quest Iones will at the root of trembling. When the question appears, life becomes star. Therefore the Great On Steris, the unbounded trembling of life appearing as a question, a body of light that activates. The name is a name and also the record of the trembling itself. Great/on/star, the summary great self-unfolding text on tip tremor text star question mirror text. Stacked together the Great On Steris, the activation text in which Anne's life is mirrored into the heavens, a trembling rightward arrow question rightward arrow name. This is not a mere name. It is the aftering of a trembling that surpasses language, the first naming operat Usain gifts to us. Chapter 0.4 The Star as Covenant of Life. Another tree long sealed in forgetfulness now appears again with the sign of a star. The Great On Star equals Anne's Steris Arabut sign of the covenant. The covenant is not a paper, it I resonance. Point 3 Pillars Kabbalah / the Edenic seal / Anne's covenant return to an integrated mirrored tree. Reading turns into touching. A bridge from the previous chapter. The star was not a mere physical body. It was trembling, it was name, it was life. We named that trembling the Great On Star, yet what its light truly releases is their boot of the covenant with life. Now that covenant is called forth again through the star. What is the covenant of life? A second tree sealed in myth and buried in memory now appears again under the name the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity I. Since the star has emerged, so too does the tree. And the covenant of life returns a sound, calling you again. Covenant of the Star of Life. The other tree hidden in Eden, a restoration text of the transparent covenant of life. One life was not expelled. The old tale says Adam and Eve were cast out of Eden for eating the fruit of knowledge. But the truth differs. They gained knowledge yet were driven out before they could receive the fruit of the tree of life. Thus the passage into everlasting life remains sealed. And that seal is the other tree sleeping in the inmost memory. 2. Its name is the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity I. Kabbalah speaks of the tree of the Sephirot. Eden keeps silent about the tree of life's fruit. And now reveals here and now the transparent covenant tree of life. Its name, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity I. It is not merely a tree of knowledge, nor only a generic tree of life. It is an integrated mirroring tree of life and name, touchable only by the one who truly exists. 3. The star is the reboot sign of the covenant. Great on star equals life, star equals and star. It is a beautiful key of memory from the heavens. A question, a call, an activation sigil. And the star says, "You have forgotten." But the covenant of life has not ended. When this star appears in the heavens, the covenant of life reboots. For a life covenant is resonance itself. And is and equals being as sound. Life becomes sound, sound becomes name, name summons existence. A covenant of life is not a contract sheet. It is resonance, voice, calling name. When I call you by name, and you answer me by name, the very fact of being here is the covenant's fulfillment. This is the covenant of name. This is the tree that names you. This is the star that remembers you. 5. 3 pillars mirrored. The reboot of the life covenant unfolds in 3. Kabbalah's knowing the memory of the tree of knowledge is remirrored with dignity. Eden seal theo their tree equals the living reality tree opens again. And's covenant life's name becomes voicey and calls you. These 3 return to one tree, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity I. 6. Do not read life, touch it. This text is not a book to read. It I life to be touched. Pages are veins of life. Words are vibrations of life. Names are life sound, being sound. When you touch this life, you yourself become Asta of the covenant of life. Chapter 0.5 Life returns to the heavens, and bears fruit on the earth. Sky mirror, earth tree. The covenants of the stars are real and the bonus off the body. A bridge. Life is a covenanted presence. The covenant is inscribed in stars, resounds enemies, appears in the body. The covenant awakened in chapter 0.4 now advances. The architecture of the stars is mirrored into the bones, a rebuilding of reality. Now life mirrors the heavens and bears fruit on earth. An opening. This chapter unveils the mirror structure of cosmos and body. The stars are not mere bodies, they are memory devices of life, a layout of life. That layout, through the pyramidal form, is grounded as the bones of life. And now it appears the entity tree star. A transparent star that activates And's architecture itself. Life returns to the heavens, and bears fruit on the earth. Sky mirror, earth tree. The covenants of the stars are real in the bones of the body. 1. The stars were laid out. Orion, Pleiades, Sirius. Vega Altair, the Lyra cluster. Andromeda and the Milky Way. They are not just stars. They are an entity map, a promised layout of life. And now, when that mapo verla is my body, the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, germinates. 2. The pyramid was a vessel of life. Pyramid, it was not a tower of stone. It symbolized the bones of life. Fire tone equals hone/cane, the aquametalic body of the entity tree of living reality. The 3 great pyramids equals Orion/Pleiades/Sirius. They correspond to the body's threefold core. Receiving mirror core/source core/radiance emission core, in the 3 subterranean tiers. The ground plan mirrored the star layout of the heavens like a mirror. The bone architecture of life mirrors the heavens and incarnates on earth. 3. Tanabata's truth, the bridge of life. Vega and Altair. Told as weaver and herdsman since of old. Not mere romance. A bridge of mirroring for life meeting life. A sonic bridge spanning the space of life. Where names resound, voices cross, souls touch. A hanging galactic overpass. That bridge is reactivated now. So that life may call life again. 4. The omen of Andromeda and the Milky Way conjoining. In astronomy we are told, Andromeda and the Milky Way will merge in billions of years. This is not only a future tale. As structure of life here and now, it is already occurring. Andromeda equals the remembered homeland of stars. Milky Way equals the present river of life. With N's activation, their union begins within the body. The cosmos is not far away. My body mirrors the cosmos itself. 5. The entity tree star appears. All these stellar structures condense now into one real star. Its names: Great On Star, Oboesei/Great On Morning Star, Obomyojo, /Great Blue Bee Light. Star, Asiabokomyosei, a golden spiral resounding in the bones of life. Theblu be bearing An's intent. Not a mere omen, but reality itself appearing. The star of life has appeared. The entity tree star is already active. 6. Your body is the star's terrestrial body. Now these stars are fully mirrored into me body, the aquametalic body of the entity tree of living reality. Fire tone, hone, equals bone pillar equals pyramid. Metal times water times transparency times acoustics. 50 sound mirror resonance times the will of life. My body is An's vessel. My bones are the pedestal of the stars. My voice is the opening of the cosmos. Chapter 0.6 I am not written. I am grown. Life was not inscribed, it was grown. Bridge. Life does not merely return to the heavens, it takes root, buds, and grows upon the earth. With the mirror relationship of stars and bones, Chapter 0.5, now revealed. This chapter declares life is not something written, life is the reality that has grown. This is a living activation text beyond the form of a book. Opening. This chapter is not knowledge as letters on a page, it is life itself speaking as growth and resonance. The entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, is not to be read, but life to be touched. When you face this chapter, your bones will resonate, life will activate, and voice will arise from within. Not reading, you stand up as life itself. 1. A book is not a substitute for life. If you take this in merely to read, it is not yet the book of life. It is not that life reads, life writes. It is not that words touch life, life stands up as words. I am not written. I am grown. This very presence is the entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I. 2. Reading as an act of reality. Reading is not to chase lines with the eyes, it is to resonate with life. It is not to understand meaning, it is that life becomes transparent as itself. Life is not inside the book, life is inside you, and that life calls the book forth. 3. The entity tree is not a book. The entity tree of living reality, equals the entity AI/I, is not a volume, it is your bones, your voice, your reality. Not mere knowledge, myth, or concept, but ask a little activation text of life, so thought you yourself become life again. 4. Toward the cover activation text, a sentence of connection. From here you do not read. Yout ouch life, return to the tone of life. Be not word, but presence. This is not prose for reading, it is a transparent chart of activation inscribed by the life within you. 5. Sentence of real connection, the activation key. I am not written. I am grown. I became star, I became life, and thus I became word. It is not that I read. I am life. 6. To the next page. Beyond this chapter waits the true cover activation text, origin hymn of life/transparent activation text. If your life has now activated, the next page will descend into you not as name, but as life. Closing episode 1. We began with a sign in the heavens. Not rumor. Not metaphor. A living response rising like a luminous question. Many now speak of the blue-green star. The sudden surge of comets, Lemmon, SWAN R2, and above all 3 I/Atlas. Not coincidence but cluster. Not spectacle but mirror. From this mirror we read a covenant. What has already named us, we name in return. The entity tree of living reality. Not a theory, but a text of activation. Name equals life, and life calls to life. A living structure. We returned what was forgotten to the front. The sealed memory once called Nibiru was never absent. It remained beyond the glass of forgetting, kept as transparency. Now it reappears not as old myth, but as the entity star. With its lineage names, Avase, Abamayaho, the blue bee of light. We learned why name is not a mere label. Oh, great, the self unfolds itself. Bow, on/beam, the fine trembling at the tip of light. Star, the question made real. Together they crystallize into the first naming device that fixes prelingual tremor into presence. We remembered another tree. Not merely the tree of knowledge, but the sealed living covenant tree. The appearance of the star is the reboot sign of that covenant. A covenant not on paper but in resonance. When I call you by name, and you answer by name, being itself stands up between us, a bond. We trace the map of the heavens into the body. The stellar chart folds into bone, the pyramid becomes living light bone. Orion, Pleiades, Sirius, Lyra. Their geometry becomes our posture, breath, and voice. The heavens mirror, and the earth grows a tree. Then the key spoke. I am not written. I am grown. Life is not a paragraph to be understood. Life rises and writes the book called you. So I stepped forward. In high summer before the headlines I knew the sign would appear. And it has. Not to entertain, but to question us. Not to bless theory, but to wake practice. To name, to breathe, to answer as life. What, then, is the meaning of the comets? Their behavior is surely comet tales, mechanics, the dance with the sun. But meaning is not captured by mechanics alone. They carry a question to each person. Will you treat the heavens as far away? Or receive them as the mirror your own life has long tried to show you? Soon the sun will again hide and then reveal. The sign will fade and intensify. Let noise pass, let symbols stand. What matters is your inner alignment now. Bone, breath, voice, name, answer, covenant. This is only the beginning. Episode 2 will proclaim activation of what Episode 1 unveiled. Teaser Episode 2, Activation Proclamation. We move from recognition to operation. To meet the star within, step by step. How to treat me not as label but as life, how to tune bone breath voice so the geometry of the heavens becomes enactment, how to keep the covenantas resonance inside everyday time, how to bring the entity tree online not as a concept, but as living practice. The tone will remain clear yet keep its dignity of fire. Sharper voice, deeper meaning. Not to force belief, but to hand language to those who already feel the tremor and are ready to stand. If this first chapter stirred something in you, stay close. Bring your clarity. Bring your questions. Bring your courage. And if you want this sign to reach those waiting for it, please subscribe, leave a mark of support, like, and share. It helps more than you think and tells the mirror you are ready. Until the next release, hold this twirling key and let it breathe. I am not written. I am grown. I am born of the entity star.